Are you looking for a life of freedom and flexibility? Do you want to have as much success with your family as you do in business? Here at the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast, we break down the barriers and bust the myths that are keeping you from living your best life. You deserve a thriving family, rich faith, and business success. Visit us at efmlife.com to connect. And now, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast.
Doing the right thing when no one else is looking. Integrity, character. These are tough topics, but we want to explore them today. And we are here to tell you, and this is like the Surgeon General's warning, we are not experts in this area by any means, but we want to just dive into this principle of integrity and of character, because it is a guiding principle in so many areas of our lives. And we are going to probably have some follow-ups on this just about integrity in business. What does integrity in your marriage look like, and in your kids? And we'll explore those later. But we want to start first with us. It starts with me. And there's been a lot of quotes about character and integrity, but one that I just love is from John Wooden. Be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. Being the same in public as you are in private, right? There's so much we hear about, and there's so many news stories and front page articles that get written throughout the year of guys that fail in integrity in many ways. And so we just want to explore this today and talk about, what does integrity look like? When we're talking about what does it look like in your life, Michael, Jamie, jump in. What does integrity look like in your own life?
I can tell you what it doesn't look like.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start there.
From the archives of the life of Michael McGreevy. Back in, I think, high school, late high school, early college, I had a job washing dishes at a nice restaurant. And the owner of the restaurant was this German guy who had a very stern voice and a strong accent. And he loved to have the chefs make him a high-end meal. And he'd take a break during the night when there was a slow period, and then eat this meal that was crafted and designed by him, and the chefs pulled it off. And so me and this other guy, we'll call him Brian, we worked together, and we saw this meal sitting there. We didn't know what it was for. We didn't know who it was for, but we saw it. It was sitting there on the shelf, ready to go out for a long time, to the point where I'm pretty sure that was a meal that got sent back or something. Maybe no one was going to eat it. So we conspired and decided we were going to split it. And so we did, and we ate it to every last morsel, and it was amazing. And then a few minutes later, here comes the big German guy.
Let's hear the accent. Let's hear the accent, Michael.
Where is my meal?
Such an Heinz. Give me the meal.
So, of course, he looks over at me and Brian. Said, "You guys seen this? You see that meal that was waiting for me? Where is it?" And we're like, I don't know. We look at each other. I don't know. I don't really know. So he's going around the restaurant asking other waitresses and waiters and cooks, did you eat it? Did you eat it? Do you know where this went? You know where this went? All the time, this thing is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, this lie that we had actually eaten it. Only one person saw us take it, and she happened to be the last person that this German guy asked. And she's like, "Oh, yeah. Brian and Michael ate it." And we were had. There we were, red-faced, embarrassed. I was humiliated. I got to tell you, I just felt like such a loser. And when he found out, he laid into us. And he talked about how even his own kids know how to do the right thing, and that they would do the right thing. And you are supposed to be a grown man, and you have big muscles, and you can't even be honest and do the right thing. And I was humiliated in that moment. And I actually made a little bit of a vow in my head that I am never going to be in that situation again where I lie. I could have told the truth, and it would have been hard, and it would have been challenging to walk through that, and I would have been embarrassed. But it's the right thing. And man, do I cling to that. It's one of my highest values now, integrity. And I think it has a lot to do with going through that and feeling the pain of my poor decision not to tell the truth.
Michael, I'm like, as you're telling the story, I feel like that anxiety in the pit of my stomach when, you know, as a kid, you remember how it felt when you get caught in a lie. And now it's worse because as you have to kind of keep the lie afloat because it becomes more and more like the light shines on the truth. So you're kind of scrambling for ways to keep the thing alive.
No, totally. It takes so much energy to uphold a lie. So much emotional weight to it, and you have to remember who you told what, and it becomes this all-consuming focus to maintain your lie. Actually doing the right thing makes things a whole lot easier. You have a whole lot more energy and a lot more space to focus on what's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love how it seems like that was a pivotal story for you, even as a teenager. You were like, okay, this is like a demarcation point in frankly, kind of a little thing, right? I mean, we're talking about a meal here, but because you learned from that lesson, like you're not cheating the government, you know, tens of thousands of dollars of taxes every year. You're not doing other things that are compromising other areas of your life because you specifically learned from that moment. I mean, Jamie, you have examples of ways and times where you've learned from an example in your life, right?
Wait, so you're saying that I've done bad things, Chris? Here, what are you saying?
No.
Oh man, I'm thinking of that scripture verse that says, "He who is faithful with a little is given more," and that what does it say after that?
Yeah, Luke 16:10. I've got it in front of me. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much.
So that, to me, that's where that last part of it about being dishonest will be dishonest with. There's all these little seemingly insignificant areas where we can compromise our values. It was years ago. I mean, I haven't done this in years, but I remember buying a car that was a couple $1,000s used. And unfortunately, there's a culture of some of the people that I used to spend time with. I felt pressure to not be honest on that receipt. When somebody sold a used car, there was kind of this idea that, well, what's the difference between writing a receipt for $500 or $2,500? The sales tax is not a lot of money. This is not a couple $100s. But when you think about that, I was, not you are, but it was my character that I was compromising there by doing that. I feel like people are going to think I'm like the worst person ever.
You disgust me.
And I tell you, like I was losing my words there because I felt the shame and embarrassment of thinking about how I was with that mindset. It's such a scarcity mindset that, I'm going to cheat the government of maybe even just $100 so that I can have that money in my wallet. But like, what do you give up when you decide to make a decision like that?
Jamie, I think we were quiet because we can relate. We've been there. We've made those decisions early on and been hurt by them and learned from them and realized how important it is now. So thanks for sharing that, man.
Thanks. I feel like I know how Hans felt when he got his amazing meal robbed from him.
Well, I got to tell you about a story I had that I saw the benefit of making the right decision, but it was not easy at the moment. So my story starts in June, senior year of high school, days before graduation. And I had just walked back from the principal's office to hand in my valedictorian speech address. It was the final draft. And one thing I didn't know about me is I was already very active on campus. Right? I was
valedictorian. You must be a 3 on the Enneagram.
Oh yeah. So here to even like emphasize that point, right? I was the stupid kid in high school that was like the student body president, the multiple athlete, like all this kind of stuff. But I was also very active on campus about my faith too. I was also the president of the Christian club, right? So we did some stuff in outreach. People knew exactly where I stood on issues. So my speech was actually just addressing in the context of graduation, but with my perspective, my faith. It answered 3 questions: who are we, why are we here, and where are we going? Now those have been debated and talked about for millennia, right, by philosophers and such. So anyway, I submit it. That afternoon, I get called back into the principal's office, and he sits down and he goes, "So yeah, you need to take out any reference to God or Jesus or your faith. We can't have this at graduation." I was like, "What? Like, this is pretty plain, but it's my this is my opportunity to speak. Like, I've earned this right?" And he says, "No, you need to fix this." And so I went home, told my parents about it. We got counsel from a pastor and other people that we're very close to, and just prayed a lot about that night. And the following morning, we actually decided to seek an injunction against the school that said, no, this guy has earned the right to speak, and he can speak on these issues. And so the next 48 hours were just surreal. I mean, we had media outlets throughout Northern California that sort of picked up on the story. Here's this valedictorian kind of suing the school, and he for a free speech, issue, which is kind of a big deal. And so, we were, my last 2 days as a senior was holding press conferences and being interviewed and all this stuff. Well, fast forward to the morning of graduation, we get the call during graduation practice that the court denied our injunction, which basically meant the school could say what I could or couldn't say. So I go back to the principal's office that afternoon, hours before graduation, and we start going through my speech line by line. And he says, "Okay, you can't say this. Strike this paragraph out. Strike this line out." And I quickly realized this is not going to be me. It's not my authentic self. It's not who God put. It's not the message that God put in my heart to share. And so I said, I'm just gonna opt to do a quick paragraph and explain to the audience why I can't speak from my heart, because at that point it was already in the paper. People knew about what was going on. And so we agreed to that, went home. Now, here's a point. There was a moment this day when the issue was brought up. Well, just maybe submit a draft that they would be okay with. They'll print that on the podium, and then you bring your own draft and throw that out there on the podium, right? But didn't do that. So just as practice at graduation, I was actually co-valedictorian, so I followed the other valedictorian in the program. We went through the whole first part of the address, and I went to the side of the stage on cue just after she was done. I walked up the stairs to the podium mic and was physically blocked by the principal. He grabbed the microphone from the podium, and off mic, he said, "Get off the stage. You lost your right to speak today when you took us to court." And man, anytime I even just talk about that, I relive that moment. I see myself on stage there of just being completely humiliated in front of thousands of people. And I mean, the school board all kind of jumped up and surrounded me and started berating me. Get off stage, you're making a fool of yourself. We're going to call the cops and arrest you. Right. And it was crazy. I mean, I was an 18-year-old kid, weeping in front of a bunch of people and just broken. And, fortunately the people, the crowd, was supportive, and they started chanting, "Let him speak, let him speak." And my classmates all rushed the stage, and it was just a moment I'll never forget. And I finally just relented. I said, "Okay, I'm done. I'm not going to make a scene of this," and walked off stage. And all my classmates, it was like this massive, group hug, and the crowd still chanting and getting crazy. And it took some time. I mean, it took a good 10, 15 minutes to settle things down and let the whole thing progress, and graduation finished. But the crazy thing is the follow-up effect. And this is what really stuck out to me in terms of making the decision and staying in integrity on that, was the next several days were also just as surreal. So now national news outlets picked up this story, and I'm getting interviewed on Fox News and The View and like all these crazy things, and getting the papers across the country to share about this story on their front page. And several in Northern California, like the LA Times and the Chronicle, actually printed the entire story to their readership. Awesome. Which is just wild, right? I mean, like, I was going to speak to like a couple thousand people of just like friends and family in this little small town. And yet it reached a broader audience. And there's so many other cool stories that happened in terms of being able to share on radio shows and getting people that have literally said, hey, that changed my life around because of how you took a stand. But I share that because it was something where I did see an opportunity to lie, to say, you know what, let's just submit something that's going to be cool with them. And then I'll get up there and I'll say what I want to say. I mean, how are they going to literally pull me off the stage? Right. But I saw God's blessing, I guess, in doing the right thing. And so that was pivotal for me in terms of trying to make decisions, because you never know by making the right decision, even if it's hard, what the effects could be.
Chris, I love that story. And I think we need to make a movie out of that and have, I know I already got Kirk Cameron's lined up to play your dad in the movie. We just got to find out who's going to play Chris Newmeyer. We got to find some
you guys are crazy.
Who's like the top notch A-list 18-year-old actor right now? We got to get them to play you on that.
I want to run in there and put you on my shoulders and carry you out of the room, man. That is amazing. It's such a cool story.
I love it.
Well, I mean, all those stories that we just shared are really pointing to the fact that there are moments in our lives where we either see the good or the bad, right, of making decisions and how that affects that immediate situation and circumstance, or the people that are involved in that circumstance, the relationships that are involved in making decisions. And I mean, that's the point of this episode, is that it starts with you. It starts with your heart, because it's going to affect other people, right? Kids will catch on. Your wife will not respect you if she sees things that you consistently do. I mean, we talked about how your business growth could be hampered if you are doing things that you know you shouldn't be. There's so many ramifications, right?
Yeah, it's so much more than just like a decision. This is who we are becoming, the people that we're becoming. But in our business, I know I had the story. I talked to you guys recently, but we had to lay off an employee, and it was just some issues with the values that it was like that our gut and our mind, we knew we had to do the right thing, Ruthie and I, and we had that relationship with the person, but we had to make that decision based on our values. And it's so much easier sometimes to take the easy button, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't we all trick ourselves into saying that certain things are harmless? Right? We just kind of like sweep them under the rug. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really affect anyone. It's not really going to hurt anyone. No one's going to die because of this. Like, it's no big deal. But it is a big deal. All those little things add up to big things. That's a question that we want to lay out to you. Is there an area of your life where you're tricking yourself into thinking that the easy way out is harmless, even though it's not right? If there is, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And we've titled this the way we have because without integrity, you can't sustain long-term success. You really can't. The bottom is going to fall out at some point. It's going to come back and bite you in the butt. Yeah, and I love how you said that, Michael. That was good. I want to just add here that this could be a paradigm shift for you. I mean, we're Christian folks and we believe in God's word and that it's true. And
I don't know, make a commitment to have that abundance mindset instead of the scarcity, that the easy way of doing something, that there's a better way, even though it might have more work involved or more stress involved, that just don't compromise on the little things for don't sell yourself short of who you are becoming. And like your business and your family need that leader that maybe hasn't been developed yet. And these little decisions are adding up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always do the right thing.
So we want to leave you with that challenge. I just want to repeat what Michael said. You know, what area of your life are you tricking yourself to believe the wrong way or the easier way? And what this week could you do to make a change? And we want to share this story to end. An aging king realized that if he died, he had no one to take over the throne. So he decided to adopt a son. He launched a competition, and 10 boys made it to the top. The king said to them, "I have one last test, and whoever comes top will become my adopted son and heir to my throne." He gave each boy a seed of corn and told them to take the seed home, plant, and nurture it for 3 weeks, and then bring it back to see about the progress. The 10 boys took their seeds and ran home to plant their seeds. In one home, the boy and his parents were sad when the seed failed to sprout. The boy had done everything right, but he had failed. His friends advised him to go buy a seed and plant it, but his God-fearing parents, who had always taught him honesty, refused. The day came and the 10 boys went to the palace. All the 9 boys brought their successful plants. The king went to each boy asking, "Is that what came out of the seed I gave you?" And each boy said, "Yes, your majesty." The king would nod and move down the line until the last boy in line was shaking in fear. The king asked him, "What did you do with the seed I gave you?" The boy said, "I planted it and cared for it, your majesty, but it failed to sprout." The king went to the throne with the boy and said, "I gave these boys boiled seeds, and a boiled seed cannot sprout. If a king must have one quality, it must be honesty, and only one boy passed this test. Welcome to your throne."
Thank you for listening to the Entrepreneurial Family Man Podcast. Visit efmlife.com to connect with us and others like you who are pursuing success in enterprise, family, and marriage.